Today, we're going to talk about the sheep mindset within the sports card hobby once again, because I picked up a pretty cool PC card that, in all honesty, deviates away from what the pricing trends suggest is a good card to buy. And that has always confused me. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity to talk about this topic once again, especially off the back of what we've seen with these Tops Now Victor Wanyama rookie cards. Because if you guys did not see over 100,000 copies of that card sold, killing the market for Victor Wembanyama rookie cards. And there's been a lot of talk and fanfare about it in particular that has left me scratching my head a little bit. So you would have seen the thumbnail. I'm having a bit of fun with that, but we'll jump straight into it with the card I did actually pick up. And it is another flawless soccer card. It is this Willian Soul of the Game Gold out of 10. Now, it's a boot relic auto on card. Pretty fantastic thing. Now, the reason why I thought this would be a good topic for today is because this card actually sold for a lot less than what I expected it to. I think I got it for about $170 USD posted, which is, dirt cheap in my opinion. It's a gold flawless card. They only did flawless soccer for 1 year. The PSA grade's irrelevant. But it's one of those things in my mind. This guy's a soccer player. He's an attacking player, and it's got a piece of his boot in there, a match-worn boot. They play with their feet in soccer. So something like this is a must-have. But what often happens in soccer in particular is you see a lot of the trends get copied from other sports. And Soul of the Game cards in basketball, as an example, some of these glove cards and bat cards in baseball and NFL respectively, often also sell for, below premiums of other patch autos. And it's always, confused me, especially in basketball, where in my mind I see a jersey and a sneaker as being hand in hand, being the same thing. I don't really see any difference between the two. But what you'll often find, and you can track this via 130 Point yourself, or looking at card ladder, other things here and there, you see that more often than not, the prices of sneaker related cards sell for a lower price. And I wasn't really sure why that was the case, because in my mind, like I said, they're the same. Yet those trends flow into soccer, and a card like this will, like I said, sell for far less than what the patch auto version of this card would actually sell for. And it's honestly never made sense to me. And especially in soccer, where these guys play with their feet, like I said. And it's one of those mindsets where it looks like it's a trend picked up by the hobby as a whole. You look at these prices and you will see that they will sell for less. And obviously on the odd occasion, you'll get some of these relics sell for more than a jersey, patch auto card. But more often than not, they will sell for less. And it just doesn't make sense. And I want you guys to sort of let me know your thoughts on that too. And, I'm rambling, but when you see these trends come from other sports, they come into soccer, and me being a collector, I see this and I desperately want to own it for the reasons I mentioned earlier. I'm going to pay more for it, and I'm able to get it for really cheap. And I'm just left scratching my head when it does sell for cheap. And I'm looking around and seeing what, other content creators are talking about when it comes to cards like this. You're watching flippers, you're looking at actual sales history, and you're not seeing that same thing flow through. And it just doesn't make sense. And it's one of those things where it's guys, think about what it is you're buying before you go ahead and buy it. Clearly, you as a collector want this card for a specific reason. If you look at this card and then a patch auto equivalent hand in hand, and you have the option to pick one, you're silly for not picking this if you are a soccer player. I don't understand why there is that difference at all. And from a basketball perspective, they don't play with their feet, but a jersey card, a sneaker card being in a card, I'm going to pay for each the same. Obviously then it comes down to what the patch itself looks like. Maybe one looks better than the other. That's where the premium comes in. But for me, being a fan of the sport, a fan of the player, a fan of the team, I'm going to treat them the same. You don't sort of see that, and you don't see it because people historically haven't talked about this sort of stuff. People historically haven't chased this sort of stuff. So then everybody just keeps following each other, and you sort of see it at the very top echelon of what happens from a content creation space. And yes, social media is only a small minority of what actually goes on within this hobby, but you get a lot of these guys talking about these things, and they all start copying each other. They all start trying to do the same sort of thing. And then meanwhile, you get stuff like this, where stuff like this becomes, affordable, or situations like this, I should say. And I'm obviously going to shoot myself in the foot, no pun intended, given that we are talking about boot relics, by, clarifying this, because people, have seen my flawless soccer card videos and have started, outbidding me on some stuff. But it's one of those ones that I think is really important to talk about. It goes back to topics we've touched on many times on this channel, and this is where it comes into the sheep of the hobby, right? You've got guys out there flipping cards, investing in cards, all that kind of stuff, talking to you about what you should be buying, what you shouldn't be buying. And they don't really ever do enough to make a distinction about which cards are actually more valuable than others, which cards are actually going to be sought after by collectors. I've done some videos, like I said, on things like championship winning seasons. Me as a collector, if I'm looking at, 11 years of Prism now that we've had, and I want to get a LeBron Gold Prism card, Now, which Prism card are you actually going to want to chase? You've got 11 years. They all surely can't be worth the same, and they shouldn't all be treated as the same, because typically you'll have things like year one cards be worth more than others, right? Year one of a product. But, every single year this player continues to play, you've got more and more cards being produced just for Prism. Like, you've got one set of golds, then you've got black golds, and then you've got golds and select, and all this other kind of crap. So how do you make the distinction about which card is going to be the one you want, long term? For me, it becomes championship winning seasons, or it comes down to, a player having a really good season, like an MVP season or something along those lines. That's the stuff I'd be chasing. But all the talk you see online is like, no, it's a gold out of 10. Who cares? It's a LeBron gold out of 10. It's like, well, that's not the mindset we should be taking. Yet the sheep of this hobby follow that path, and nobody's sitting back and thinking critically or talking to you guys as viewers, as collectors, and thinking critically about it. And when I say nobody, obviously there are a lot of people talking about it, but I'm talking about the guys at the forefront of social media in this space. And it's just crazy to me, especially when you see things like the whole Tops Now situation with Victor Wembanyama, right? This gets announced, gets released when he wins the Rookie of the Year. And what you sort of see on the next slide here is that there was 113,000 copies sold, right, in 72 hours. This broke the record where the Otani had 107,000 sold when they did it for him. And that's crazy to me. That's 113,000 Victor Wembanyama rookie cards that sold for $3,000 USD each, that are now flooding the market, right? It's basically killed the market for Victor Wembanyama. And that's not even factoring in, his Panini rookie cards, which has a shit ton of them. That's not even factoring in his non-licensed cards that are about to come out from Topps with the whole Topps Chrome stuff. It's crazy to me. And whilst, yes, this relates to prospecting primarily, and people bought into this to try and chase the serial numbered cards that are randomized, but you guys get where I'm going, right? The people that are talking in this space, the sheep that are talking in this space, are talking up stuff like this, right? They're going to say this is a good buy if you want to try and make money and all that kind of thing. But look, there's 113,000 copies of just this one card sold, not factoring in the other sets that I just mentioned. Yet at a high level, those same people are sort of still pushing an agenda that is going to downplay this kind of card, right? And I'm not saying this card in particular because I own it. I want to pump the market. That's got nothing to do with it. It's more like, let's sit back and think about what collectors actually want to own, what want to actually chase. And it's just crazy to me how you've got so many people pushing that agenda, pushing that mindset. And it's people like Jeff Wilson who are talking about things, yes, from an investment perspective, and that's okay. If you want to do that, go ahead and do it. But then other people try and copy him, and you've got like the Roth cards and the other kinds of flippers and these breakers and other content creators. They're all sort of trying to get a piece of the same pie. And the reason why the way they go ahead and do that, I should say, is they all start mimicking each other. And they all start talking through the same sides of their mouth and all that kind of stuff, right? They all start talking to the same agenda because they want to get aligned to a company, they want to get paid, they want to maintain sponsorships, they want to get noticed, they want to be part of the boys club, all that kind of stuff. And that's what feeds that, conversation. And then meanwhile, when you look at social media, that's sort of all the mindset you get. And whilst, yes, I've put like the likes of Mojo Sports in the thumbnail for a bit of clickbait, he's somebody that does collect things from a PC perspective. So he doesn't necessarily do it as bad as others, but you sort of see that trend, and it becomes pretty widespread in my opinion. And I want you guys to let me know your thoughts down below, because some people will push back and say, well, it's only a small thing, I'm making too big of a deal. But, sales history doesn't lie. And obviously you're going to have some instances where boot relic cards or bat relic cards sell for more than the counterparts of the patches. But traditionally, these things are much harder to move than other patch orders for the most part, right? Outside of players like a LeBron as an example. But for the average, transaction, these things are going to sell for less. And that just doesn't make sense to me. People need to sit back and think about what it is they're doing, what it is they're trying to sell, what it is they're trying to buy. This guy's a soccer player. I'm going to say it again. They play with their fucking feet. Why would a card like this not be more sought after than a piece of a jersey? Because what also happens in soccer, actually, sometimes these things sell for less than just the autograph cards, which is, again, insane to me. These guys play with their feet. He's a freaking attacking player. I've got a Diego Costa up there, which is a PSA 9. It's a ruby version of this card. He's a striker. Right? He scored over 100 goals for Chelsea. I think he scored a couple hundred goals, actually. He's a striker. That card cost me peanuts. I think it was like $150 USD, and that was bought during basically 2021, so the very end of the boom. That thing cost me peanuts. But if it was a patch auto version, it would have sold for 3-4 times that price. Even back then, it's still going to sell for 2 or 3 times the price today, as opposed to that card that I paid for, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, we're collectors at heart. Buy the thing that you actually want to own long term. Don't listen to what these people are saying online about what you should be chasing, what you shouldn't be chasing, because they're going to sit back and tell you, go chase those Victor Wembanyama cards, or hitting a Victor Wembanyama card out of Panini, or buying that Topps Now card is a better buy than something like this. It's something that's going to have meaning and maintain value long term. And I'm not saying these things are going to maintain value, but you guys sort of get where I'm going. I'm looking at it through a collector's mindset, somebody that wants to own the card at the end of the day. And even if you're sort of somebody as an investor, right, you're going to be selling to collectors for the most part. So you need to also be looking at things. Well, what does a collector actually want long term? And I can tell you right now, it's not a 12th year LeBron James gold card. It's going to be things that actually matter, things that actually relate to that player. So I rambled a heck of a lot today, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. I didn't really name names, but those are the sheep within this hobby, pushing certain agendas, pushing certain prices and certain cards that you should and shouldn't be buying, when in reality, the stuff that you should be buying should actually be things you actually want to own yourself. So that's sort of it for today. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.